And we are back. And we just finished watching 1992's The Muppet Christmas Carol. Rated G with a runtime of 1 hour and 25 minutes. This is directed by Brian Henson with writing credits to Charles Dickens and Jerry Juhl. J-U-H-L? Juhl?
Juhl. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, all right. For some reason, I thought this came out in the 80s. Why do I think that this came out in the 80s?
I think you're probably thinking of the original Muppet movie and the follow-ups to that.
Didn't those come out in like the 70s? Like late 70s?
Maybe the first one, but I think most of them were in the 80s.
80s?
Yeah.
Why does this feel like an 80s movie? It didn't feel like a 90s movie.
Because the Muppets were in it.
Is that Michael Caine's also in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's
been around for a while.
It's not called Michael Caine's
Christmas Carol. That's true.
Muppets Christmas Carol. Although Michael Caine does an outstanding job as Scrooge.
He does. Yeah. This is loosely based, I would say, on the Charles Dickens classic, A Christmas Carol.
There's some liberties taken. They cut out some of the unnecessary bits for a Muppet children's movie.
Yeah, there was a lot more singing in it than I remember, but obviously it's the same movie, so I shouldn't really think that. But it felt like there was more singing in it this time around.
Well, the Muppets movies always had singing in them.
Yeah, but this one seemed a lot more, so I don't know.
Really?
I mean, it wasn't constant singing.
It felt like there were 4 songs in the whole thing.
4? I thought there were like 6 or 7 or 8. I don't know.
There may have, to me, I don't know. It didn't bother me. I would say the bulk of the film is people talking.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not like, remember, what was that movie?
The Netflix one, Over the Moon or something.
Yeah, there was just singing like, every 2 seconds.
Oh my God, I didn't expect that.
Or like Les Miserables.
Oh my God,
why are you singing this part?
So, having seen this now, because you never saw this before.
I've never seen it. No.
How did you escape all these years without having seen The Muppets Christmas Carol?
You know what? Probably because it came out in 1992, and by then I had sort of lost complete interest in the Muppets. I graduated high school by then. What the hell is I was going to college. What's a college guy going to see the Muppets Christmas Carol? It's a kids movie.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
If
this is the epitome of a kids movie.
If a Star Wars movie came out in 92, I'm sure you'd go see that.
Star Wars has like violence and action and whatnot.
Not violence. It's not violence.
Oh yeah, there's no violence in Star Wars.
What? There's hardly violence. We're not talking
about
like... He
gets his hand chopped off. People are getting shot. People are dying left and right in those movies. They're full of violence. People are exploding.
They are not full of violence.
They mass murdered everybody on the Death Star. There were like janitors on there who had no idea what was going on, and they just got obliterated. They were You're
talking like this is a Rambo style of violence. Get out of here. No, everything happens off screen.
It wasn't Rambo style violence, but those films are full of violence. People shooting and killing each other is a violent act.
I guess.
Han Solo murders Greedo.
Well, he had it coming.
But he murdered him.
Not ever. Anyway, we're on a crazy tangent tonight. What's going on here?
They're both owned by Disney now.
They're both owned by Disney. You know, it's weird. I feel like now that we've downloaded the TCM app, I don't want to watch anything but I'm paying for these other subscriptions. I should be watching stuff here. So this is another reason why Muppets Christmas Carol got on our radar. This is playing on Disney Plus and by extension, I think Hulu. I should have looked at this before I opened my mouth. But again, this is loosely based on Dickens' A Christmas Carol story with Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge, Waldorf and Stadler as the Marleys.
Yeah.
Jacob and Robert, which obviously was a nod to Bob Marley. Yeah. Who else? Kermit as Bob Cratchit, Miss Piggy as his wife, and we're Gonzo and Rizzo Rat.
Rizzo the Rat playing himself. Gonzo was Charles Dickens.
And they are narrator.
They're the narrators guiding us through the story. Although they're physically there, apparently.
Yeah.
Which is kind of strange for narrators, but still.
And what was Fozzie Bear? He was like an innkeeper.
He was Fozziewig.
Fozziewig.
Who is, if you know anything about the actual story, when Scrooge was a young apprentice, he worked for Fezziwig.
Right.
And
correct.
Of course, they had a little fun with the name, and he became Fozziewig.
Now, having seen this, who is your favorite Scrooge?
Alistair Sim.
You don't want to think about that.
No. Michael Caine did an excellent job. I love how he picked that guy up and threw him out of his door physically.
That was amazing.
Like he was a dirty shirt.
Yeah.
Just threw him out.
Who was it? It was Beaker and...
Please don't... No, it was some guy just begging, please don't foreclose on my house.
Oh, yes, that's right.
It's Christmas.
He did not care.
He didn't give a goddamn about Christmas.
He
did that really well.
Yeah, it's funny because you think of A Christmas Carol and it's kind of dark and bleak and moody.
Dickens.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Dickensian is not like fun times and sunshine.
I know, but at the same time, here you have the Henson Company coming in and doing their own version. And it actually works. I remember seeing this in the theater and I remember liking it. And I haven't seen it since, I guess, 92. I could have sworn it was between 85 and 88 that I saw this movie, but apparently it was 1992. And I still enjoyed it. It's only an hour and 25 minutes. It doesn't take up too much of your time. I feel like the TV version with George C. Scott was longer. I actually like that. You don't particularly care for that version of Scrooge.
It's Alistair Sim.
Not Bill Murray?
No.
Not Reginald Owen in the original 38 version?
Nope. Alistair Sim. Best Scrooge. Best Scrooge.
Says you.
The Muppets, like that's sort of like you were talking about, it can get a little dark. The Muppets lends itself. The best Muppet stuff is the stuff that's not afraid to go a little dark. Like, I would probably say the closest thing you'll get to like British children's humor is the Muppets.
Yeah.
Because
makes sense.
It was, you'd get like the little jokes, you'd get the little songs, but you'd also get people getting exploded or thrown through windows or smacked across a room. Yeah. I mean, Miss Piggy was just brutalizing people left and right.
Yeah.
Even Kermit.
Yeah.
It was a terribly abusive relationship.
Yeah, he still kept coming back.
He was into it.
I'm sure there's fan fiction out there about those two.
Oh, God. My God. The internet is disgusting.
Yeah, no, you're right. We probably should have paired this with Arthur Christmas.
This would have been a good, because they both have that sensibility, that sort of sensibility where you're not afraid to go dark and you don't push it too far.
Yeah, but just enough.
But it's just enough, and it's. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I grew up on. I loved British humor growing up as a kid. Monty Python and Benny Hill, Blackadder, the Young Ones, all of that stuff. I mean, Time Bandits is probably one of my favorite films of all time.
Sure.
But the Muppets sort of fits into that, and I could see why in today's day and age the Muppets doesn't really succeed. Because either they're too afraid to do that sort of thing, or when they do it, everybody's like, "Oh my God, what are they doing?"
Right? They have to. Yeah.
You could have gave me a trigger warning. Yeah. It's they're puppets. They are allowed to beat each other up. Little things hitting each other.
There's nothing better than that.
We love it. This was like surprisingly good. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was a good little version of A Christmas Carol. Christmas Carol's been done a million ways. You get a grumpy guy, 3 ghosts, and a change of heart on Christmas.
Yeah.
They did a really good job with it.
Yeah. Fun fact from IMDb trivia. Before production began, Sir Michael Caine told producer and director Brian Henson, "I'm going to play this movie like I'm working with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I will never wink. I will never do anything Muppety. I'm going to play Scrooge as if it is an utterly dramatic role and there are no puppets around me." Henson replied, "Yes, bang on." That's amazing.
And it works.
Yeah.
It works 100%. He is just this angry, mean guy, and he delivers all of the classic Scrooge lines.
Yeah.
Just spot on with that venom in his voice when he's dealing with poor people. Better they be dead than increase the surplus to reduce the surplus population.
You know, it's funny that you brought that up. That line is obviously it's in the novel itself, but it's funny how that line comes up in the different variations of this storytelling. Yeah. And it's interesting. Like, obviously we can't do this now, but I would love to take something like this, like A Christmas Carol, and then just go through every variation of it just to watch it, and then to compare and contrast how things have maybe gotten better, how they've gotten worse, what worked, what didn't work, and how the same story could be told in so many different ways. Because the way, obviously, A Muppet's Christmas Carol isn't like Alistair Sim's A Christmas Carol, right? So yeah. It's very different. At the core, it's still the same story, right? But it's very, very different. The telling of it is very different. The visuals are very different. I think one of my first things when we were watching it is like, there's these puppets and people, and everyone's just going about their business like this is normal.
I don't care. Yeah. There's like a family of mice living in a hole in a brick wall, and everybody's just like,
whatever.
Here's your Christmas present.
Yeah. So, I would like to do that one year. Just pick a movie like this where we know that there's like several versions of it, and like just go through them.
Oh, there's so many versions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do like maybe one a day for half the month on this, probably.
Probably, because it's and like some of them aren't even they're not even called A Christmas Carol. They just it's just like, oh, we're just ripping the plot off.
Right. I mean, like
100%.
Bill Murray's Scrooged is a variation of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's been, I guess, because we're getting closer to Christmas now, that's been on rotation on the cable channel. So it's sort of interesting. Like I've been thinking about this, how this particular story has been told and retold and retold and retold. And it's interesting because you would think that somebody would be like, okay, this has been done. But it doesn't matter because I guess it's public domain now. So
that probably has a lot going for it. I mean, Charles Dickens is one of the writers, but he is not seeing a lick of royalties on this one.
Royalty on this one, yeah.
It's like, we're the estate.
But
Spur off, buddy.
It's funny because I mean they still give him his props. He gets a writing credit on IMDb. I'm like, Charles Dickens.
Yeah, and like it's funny how he's actually become like a character in fiction. Because of this, like mainly because of this story. If you know any Charles Dickens story, he's written a buttload.
Yeah.
The main one you hear about always is
obviously
Christmas
this
Carol.
one. Yeah. I mean, he's done tons of shit. Tale of Two Cities,
Great Expectations,
Nicholas Mickleby,
David Copperfield.
Yeah. The list goes on.
Yeah.
He's the one that you said is paid by the word.
Oh my God. I had to read freaking David Copperfield over the summer when I was going into high school, like a goddamn phone book, and just brutally, just so dull. And it's clearly he's getting paid by the goddamn word, because it's just like, oh, let's spend an entire page talking about the pattern on this man's tie.
Really?
Yeah. And I was just, I literally threw the book against the wall so hard it exploded. So bored.
But it's a classic. How dare you?
Not for a kid in high school who's like trapped in his house. All his friends are outside playing, and I'm forced to read freaking David Copperfield. I never finished it. The book was just.
Did you get the Cliff Notes?
Tattered.
That's what I would do. Sometimes I would try to finish stuff, but if I didn't, I would go to the library and get the Cliff Notes.
This was basically, you know how like when you. Sometimes when you're going from one grade to another, they're like, here's the summer reading list.
Yeah.
Read at least 3 of these books because it'll help you. My mom forced me to read David Copperfield. And it was just like, nobody ever mentioned it ever again. I never had to talk about it in high school, nothing. Yeah. It was just, you're just going to read this. And it was just absolute torture. All my friends are like outside.
Yay, it's summer.
My God, it's summertime. Yay. And I'm like looking out the window and then looking at this freaking giant tome on my lap.
And that was another thing. His books were always just ginormous. No,
it was mainly. I mean, David Copperfield was gigantic.
Isn't Nicholas Nickleby like an 8-hour movie?
I think Nicholas Nickleby is the one he never actually finished. I don't know, but anyway, we're on a huge tangent here.
Yeah. Should we just give numbers? I feel like there's no critiques here. I mean, this is a fun.
Yeah,
if you haven't seen it, absolutely, I would recommend it. I think, and if you have,
it's one of the better Muppet outings.
Yes,
I would definitely say it's one of the better.
I
Muppet
heard that
movies.
last one that Jason Segel was in, and what is it, Amy Adams? I heard that's not bad. The last one.
I heard that too. And wasn't the one with Tina Fey not bad either?
You know what? I didn't particularly care for that. I think I watched it and I was like, I was ready to like gouge my eyes out.
We did watch it, but it didn't bother me.
I didn't like it. I don't
remember a damn thing about it.
I don't remember a damn thing about it either, but I think that's on purpose. Like I don't know why.
I thought that was the one with Jason Segel.
Is that the one with Jason Segel?
I'm pretty sure that's the one that Jason Segel did.
Well, it's shite then.
Well, you just went off saying, "Oh, I heard it was really good."
Well, I heard that it was good, but I didn't know that that's the one that Tina Fey is in. I remember Tina Fey, and because I love her, but then I was like, "This is trash."
The one where she's like the head of the Russian prison.
Like the Russian, yeah.
Huh. I don't remember it being bad.
I didn't like it. And I couldn't tell you why. All I remember is after I watched it, I was mad, and I proceeded to wipe it from my memory.
You never let that on. I remember.
I thought I told you I didn't like this.
You told me like a year or two after we watched it, but I thought when we were watching it, you thought it was okay.
No, I hated it. I hated it. Yeah.
You lied to me. But anyway, as far as Muppet movies go, this is one of the better ones.
Yeah. And it's not long. It's got decent pacing on it. I think the jokes still land. I think the voice acting is fantastic.
Yeah, and what's his name? And Michael Caine is the star of the show.
He's really great. He's great.
Fantastic.
I mean, it's funny because it's like it's a musical, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. I mean, I felt like there was a lot of music in it, but you know what
I heard on Disney Plus. Because people have been complaining, I watched them up at Christmas Carol and it didn't have all the songs, and people were getting upset. But so apparently, in the extra features on the Disney Plus version, you could watch like the one that has all of the songs that were in. Like I guess maybe they got edited out after the original showings of it.
I think on IMDb, I think I read the trivia. Like one of the songs was like a total downer or something.
Yes, that was it. They said the song was it was just very depressing, and they said it sort of like killed the pacing of the movie. But a lot of people remember that, and they're just like, "Oh, how dare they take that out?"
Right, because they're purists. Yeah.
If you want to see it, it's there. There's a cut of the film in the extra features that includes that one song.
An entire cut of the film with the added scene, or just the added scene?
No, an entire cut of the film with the added scene.
Maybe we should watch it just to see. I mean,
I'm not
the whole thing, but maybe we
again.
can pinpoint where it is in the story and just watch.
I think it has something like Miss Piggy singing about Tiny Tim or something like that. So of course it's depressing.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I think I read something about that on IMDb trivia, but I don't remember it enough to.
I've never seen it, so I am not missing out on or feeling nostalgic for something that no longer exists.
My memory is such shit, even when I was a young person, that like if you told me there was an extra song, all right, I don't whatever. And I don't feel like it's so precious that I'm like, oh man, you ruined my childhood by taking that song out. God, people gotta ease up on what they're getting their panties in a twit about.
It can't be just like, oh, that's too bad. It's got to be, this is an outrage.
This is the world we're living
Yeah.
in. My God.
It either doesn't exist or it's an outrage.
All right. So your first time viewing, you still say Alistair Sims is the best Scrooge.
Yes.
I feel like that's debatable, but whatever. Scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this film?
I'll give it a 7.
I too would give it a 7. I think
It's good.
It's good. From where it starts to where it ends, it's really well done. It's got good pacing. The voice acting is great. Michael Caine is brilliant. I love the production values. I love just watching just the craziness of the Muppets in the real world.
Yeah.
And it's fun that they took a property that's not really kid friendly and they made it.
I mean,
into
I've
kind
always loved Scrooge even when I was a little kid.
Yeah, but you're not like most little kids. Most
I
little
gotta be
kids are
honest,
just
I
one
loved
step away from
anything
Animal
British.
and just. Yeah, that's not really a kid thing though. Yeah. I mean, kids are like running around.
I was watching
eating
like Monty
dirt.
Python and A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. Most kids aren't like that. Yeah, you're the exception. You're not the norm. But I think for something that could have just gone off the rails in a bad way, it doesn't. And I think it's fun and it's definitely. It didn't feel like a 92 movie. It didn't feel like a movie that's.
I was surprised
like,
when you said it was 92 because I could have sworn it was an 80s film too.
I
thought everything Muppets was 80s, and I
80s.
thought they disappeared until like the early 2000s.
Yeah, same. I didn't think there was any 90s Muppets because I feel like by that point, like we're in college. Like, why the hell would this even be a thing on anybody's radar?
Yeah.
I mean, we grew up with the Muppet Show, remember?
Yeah.
That was so great. I loved Waldorf and Statler. They were my favorite. Those two bastards just roasting everybody.
Jerks. Just
Heckling
roasting
everybody. I remember the Alice Cooper episode. Could you imagine like a kid show with freaking Alice Cooper? Like, what the hell? And there's a scene where I think he gets like the guillotine. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, they weren't afraid to like
just go
throw
there.
violence into the
Into the
equation.
Yeah.
It really was like an American British comedy.
Yeah.
And I love that stuff.
Why do you think that it hasn't translated to younger audiences?
Either they're like making it very tame, or when they do try and go dark, it's sort of like you either go for it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And when you sort of like half-ass it doesn't have like that same bite, or it's just sort of there for the sake of being there, or people get so riled up. I mean, it's like you can't even like talk. Some parents, they're just like, oh well, that cartoon they said kill, or they said death, or there were kids were somebody hit another person, and it's that's what happens. Kids are animals.
Yeah.
Little kids are animals. They're just running around doing God knows what, getting into all sorts of crazy shenanigans, and they get hurt a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hilarious.
Terrible.
Sometimes it's funny. I remember when I was a little kid, and for the little kid, it's just the worst.
Of course.
I had this like I got for Christmas. This like it was like this enormous styrofoam plane. Like you had to put it up together. The wingspan was like 4 or 5 feet.
How old were you?
I was like maybe 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
But it was made out of styrofoam, so it was light, but it had huge long wings.
Okay.
And we went to some family picnic or whatever, and everybody's like family from that I haven't seen in a long time on my dad's side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're when they get together, they get together.
Yeah.
And I'm in like the grassy area, and my dad's like, "All right, hey, let's put this thing together and actually give it a throw." And I'm like, "Yeah." I put it together, and I throw it as hard as I can. It does a complete loop in the air and flies behind me.
Oh no.
And smashes me in the back of the head. And I fall on the ground, and I'm like crying, and everybody's laughing hysterically.
No. Terrible.
And like when I was a little kid, that was like, oh my God, this is the worst. And everybody's laughing at me. But thinking about it now, I wish I could have seen that. I wish I had a time machine so I can go back and see little me get blasted in the head with a styrofoam plane. Because that would have been freaking hilarious.
As hilarious as Reagan throwing up on the priest.
Oh, that's a different type of fun.
Terrible. Terrible. All right, so.
But yeah, that's like that little scenario described. That's a Muppets episode.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And now it would just be like, oh, but the kid.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, some people
you'd have some kind of parent group rioting and picketing and boycotting because.
Yeah, the little kid, some tears were shed. Like that, remember I told you that video I saw, like the kid with the birthday party and the the balloons are above the cake.
Oh, the dogs.
The two Boston Terriers just annihilate the cake. And the kid's just like, hilarious. That kid's traumatized, but he'll get over it.
Yeah.
And when they watch the video, they're going to be busting a gut.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Get over it. Get over it, people.
All right, I don't have any notes. I mean, I think it's a decent film. I wouldn't change anything about it. Yeah. I think probably not a widely advertised and probably not a readily available since it is on Disney Plus, since Disney owns the Muppets. But definitely check it out. Definitely check out A Muppets Christmas Carol. I was just thinking, for some reason, the Muppets Babies. Remember that?
Oh, God, I hated that so much.
Oh, my God. I can't get that theme out of my head now. It's going to be on loop in the back of my brain, I think, now.
Terrible.
I watched that cartoon. There was nothing else to watch on Channel 2 in the mornings.
Yeah. I think the few times that I actually got to stay home from piano school, I was all excited to watch Saturday morning cartoons, and I turn it on, it's freaking Muppet Babies.
Oh.
Ugh, terrible.
Not Dungeons and Dragons?
No.
I think that was later in the day. It wasn't like an early cartoon.
No, I think Dungeons and Dragons had its run already.
Cycled out.
And then they started making Muppets Babies, and Smurfs were always there.
Always there.
Snorks or whatever the hell. It was like Smurfs' underwater cousins.
That I don't remember. Wow.
Anyway.
All right.
So 7.
7 and 7. Definitely, if you have Disney Plus, check out A Muppets Christmas Carol from 1992, rated G, with a runtime of 1 hour and 25 minutes. I don't think this is like I said, because I guess it's a Disney property, it's probably not going to be readily available on other platforms unless you're going to buy rent. But definitely throw this in the Christmas rotation. I think it's a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it from us, and we will bid you all a
good night.
Good night.